Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's 8 o'clock in Scotland, and I've come into the soulful Celebrant salon this morning to meet up with a beautiful celebrant who's based in Tasmania, Merren. So Merren's going to join us soon. I see you there, Merren. Lovely. Merren's going to join us soon, and Merren is a civil celebrant in Tasmania, the island state of an island state of Australia. So I've really connected through Merren, with Merren through social media, like all of us can connect, and I just absolutely love her her grid. You know, I love the vibe it gives. I love the fact that most of the ceremonies are what I see are outdoors, so the landscape, and then all the things that she brings into that, which I've really just learned through her Instagram. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning, and a little bit about other things as well. So I'm just waiting for Merren to join, and then we'll get started. Has anyone been to Tasmania? I haven't myself, but I think it looks absolutely beautiful. And I suppose it's kind of reminiscent of Scotland, the landscape. And also, I looked at it from, here we go. I looked at a satellite view of Tasmania, of the island, and it's almost heart-shaped. Morning.
Good morning.
Or afternoon.
Is the sound okay?
I can hear you, yes. Could you hear me, Merren, okay?
Yes, I'm just turning you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh my
Excellent.
gosh, how sweet. We get to meet.
I know, it's wonderful. And what's that in the background? Can I see water? Oh, how beautiful.
Just stand up. This is the River Derwent, or Timtomili Minanya in our Palawa language for the River Derwent. So down that way is Antarctica, and up that way is the city.
Oh, I was, before you joined, Merren, I was saying I looked at a satellite image of Tasmania, and it almost looks like a heart shape.
It's a heart shape.
Although I tend to see heart shapes everywhere.
I think actually a lot of Tasmanians find heart-shaped rocks and leaves and shells all the time. I'm like really drawn to that, which is really nice.
Yeah, same here. When I go for walks with friends on the beach, I always spot heart-shaped stones and collect them. But a lot of my friends say, no, that's a triangle. It's not a heart. I think I just see it a little bit differently.
It's up to interpretation, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. So thanks for joining me this morning
or
this afternoon.
I feel so lucky.
Yeah, well, I feel so lucky because I know you're so busy. In Tasmania, you're in autumn, so you've come through a summer of weddings and you're in your autumn of ceremonies. And so I really appreciate you spending a bit of time with me today. So thank you so much for that.
Oh my gosh, it's my joy. I'm so excited. It's so nice.
Welcome everyone that's joining us today as well this morning. And for those of you that catch up later, because hopefully people can join anytime. I'll save this on my Instagram, and maybe you can save it too, and we can share it so people can watch it at their leisure as well. So I was also thinking about how Tasmania, to me, when I look at images of Tasmania, it's quite reminiscent of Scotland, especially the west coast and the Scottish Highlands. There seems to be a kind of, and it's quite lush. I know you have things like, tree ferns. I think that obviously the flora and fauna is very different, but yeah, there's a kind of similarity to a certain extent. And is it right?
Yeah.
You don't get the kind of searing heat as much as in mainland Australia.
Yeah, so Australia is so diverse, and we have dry, searing desert kind of heat. We have tropical rainforest heat where it's really humid. And then we've got what we call in Tasmania cool, temperate rainforest. So we have tree ferns, man ferns, we have tall eucalyptus gums. Some of our oldest trees in Tassie are around about 200-300 years old.
Wow.
And I was fortunate before COVID. I was lucky enough with my family to go to Canada, Vancouver, and we were walking in forests where the trees were estimated to be 3,000 years old.
Yes, yes.
And when you think of that, that's like before Christ.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah. It can be really hard to absorb to a certain extent.
Really hard.
Yeah. So that, yeah, we love our plants, my husband and I, and we try to cultivate, we've got a banana plant in the front garden, we've got tree ferns. So my daughter's living in a house not far with a Tasmanian tree fern in the garden, and yeah, so we just I'd love to. Have you got a botanic gardens?
We've got botanic gardens.
Oh, yes. I've got to come to the botanic gardens. And so morning everyone. People are starting to say hello.
Hello, Lauren.
So in regard to ceremonies, in regard to wedding ceremonies, do you find a lot of the couples that you work with come over to Tasmania for their weddings or for elopements?
We have in Tassie, we have a huge mixture of local Tasmanian people who live here. Hi, Georgie. And we have a lot of mainland Australians coming over as well. And obviously before COVID, we had a lot of international people who were traveling and just decided to get married. I guess under Commonwealth law in Australia, it's very easy to be married here. And as long as you have a passport, and as long as you're not brother and sister, and that you're over the age of 18, really they're the only three things on a very basic level that people need to get married here. So the Australian government really does make it quite easy. It doesn't matter if you're travelling and passing through. It doesn't matter if you're a resident. As long as you can prove those three things. So that's great.
I wondered about that. I wondered about about people. So it sounds like they're travelling through, or people actually plan to come to your beautiful island. So I thought today we would, if it was okay with you, because we covered a lot. We had a chat recently. We talked a lot about celebrancy in itself, like the regulation and the practice of celebrancy in Australia and Tasmania. And from the way I understand it, is that it's the training to become a civil celebrant is almost kind of diploma level, so it's quite in-depth training. It sounds to me that it's quite well regulated too. And that once you have qualified as a celebrant and are working as a civil celebrant, you then have annual training and of course CPD, continuing professional development, and so that varies a little bit to how we work in Scotland and in the UK, but in regard to regulation, that might be something you're moving forward to
yeah, and I think I don't know if celebrants in Scotland kind of agree or disagree with regulation, and I guess it depends on how it's done. But from my perspective in Australia, regulation for our industry is fabulous.
Yes.
Because it really ensures that those people, those celebrants, are doing it for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
And we need to have a rigorous guidelines on how we present ourselves, how we run our business, as well as keeping up to date with all of the legal obligations that us as civil celebrants and couples who are wanting to be legally married. So it's probably important to know that I'm a civil celebrant, so I do a whole suite of things: weddings, baby namings, women's circle, funerals, farewells. But in Australia, the only thing that's regulated is marriage. So anyone can be a civil celebrant, but you have to do the training, and then you have to apply, put in an application to the Attorney General's office in Australia. And then there's approximately a 3-month waiting period until you can be registered. And from that point of registration, then you can start accepting bookings, which is great. And then once a year, we have a full day of learning, of study, professional development, and we also have to pay a fee to government as well every year. And the fee that I mean, in my point of view, is minimal. Like, it's a few $100s. So that's, that's really minimal to do what we do. But the regulation and the constant education and professional development, I think, is vital for our industry.
I think that sounds, as I mentioned, I'm a midwife. I'm a midwife, so I come from a very heavily regulated profession that works in a very similar way to how civil celebrancy is supported and regulated in Australia. We pay an annual fee to maintain our registration, which sounds quite similar. And that fee is going towards the whole administration of funding and propping up nurses and midwives. So I understand that. I think that's really important too. But for me as well, I think regulation allows that title of profession, self-regulation.
Absolutely.
The way I understand it is a profession is something that is self-regulated. And I think
absolutely,
I think that's where at the moment in the UK it's a bit woolly. It's a little bit woolly. So maybe we'll get there over the next few years, hopefully.
And I think couples who are getting married, and families who have a loved one who has recently passed, I think our clients, the people in the community, want to feel 100% reassured and comfortable that they've got a celebrant who is going to hold space, who is going to take great care, who is going to be highly respectful and compassionate. And that's part of the regulation, is to ensure that. So it really does sift out those people who are just doing it for maybe not 100% the right.
So it's almost public protection, just like with nursing and midwifery, etc. There's a level of public protection here about being being safe as well.
Absolutely.
So it's really interesting. And the other thing is the level of knowledge in regard to what celebrancy is. Because again, I think in the UK, there's still this kind of, no one's quite sure what is a celebrant, what do we do? And there's a bit of a kind of murky identity. And I think maybe establishing as a profession and bringing along with regulation can bring a really clear, strong identity which is again something
Absolutely.
that would be wonderful to move forward to.
Absolutely, because in Australia, you only, for couples getting married, you have two options. You have a religious ceremony that's facilitated or conducted by a particular priest that's attached to a particular religious denomination, or you have a civil celebrant. They're your two options. And so a civil ceremony, you can incorporate all of those religious elements. You can incorporate a variety of different religious elements. It's a highly creative process, as long as we are committed to that small legal obligation, which there are certain words called a monitum, which is civil celebrant needs to say.
Yes.
And there are minimum words called the legal vows that the couples need to say.
Yeah.
Plus we need 2 witnesses, and we have to sign 3 documents out of the 5. So it's probably very similar to Scotland.
It is, yeah. Very similar in a lot of your saying, and I love some of the kind of historical things, like the forms have to be signed with a black fountain pen. You know, it can't just be a kind of uniball or it has to be.
Oh, interesting.
I love all of, in a way that's all a little bit historic, but at the same time it's kind of precious as well, that we've all got to have our fountain pens, and it's it's quite
nice. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, but as you kind of mentioned there about the content of ceremonies, about really for the couple it can be their choice whatever they include in their ceremony, and whether that brings in elements of faith or elements of faith that are meaningful to them and their families and their loved ones. And that was some of the things that really attracted me to your social media, your Instagram, which is where we kind of connected, is your the way the things you include or probably offer in your set. And I just wanted to read everyone. I would say to everyone, go and look at Merren's Instagram.
Stop.
No, it's so beautiful. Chinta Celebrate Love. It's so beautiful. And the funny thing is, I was thinking this last night. Sometimes, when you put things out on social media or you write words and put it out there, you sometimes think, does anyone actually read any of this? But of course, I've been reading a lot of your posts, and they're just so beautiful. And I love you on your profile on Instagram. Can I share with everyone what you've written there on your profile? Because it's just so beautiful. And you talk about designing and facilitating ceremonies. And you say that they are authentic ceremonies with oodles of love, heartfelt goodness, warmth and laughter. And it's also good for us. And it is like a recipe, I think it's like this little recipe of goodness. And I just love that quote. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. So in your ceremonies, I noticed that you use a lot of, we've talked about stones already. We've talked about collecting things from the natural environment around us. And I noticed you use a lot of rose quartz as well in your ceremonies. But you also, beautiful. That's great. I've got one here.
I prepared some earlier.
Oh, yeah. Just in case someone's wondering what rose quartz is. Oh, how beautiful. So a stone of love. And so I noticed that you offer pre-ceremony, kind of like women's circles or gathering together prior to the ceremony. Can you share a little bit about the kind of inspiration behind that?
Well, so I've always, part of what I do is I facilitate what I call circle ceremonies. And that is for anyone who identifies as a female. But I also have done community circle ceremonies too. For example, I've done circle ceremonies for 50, 60 people from an organisation that's wanting to have like a team building kind of workshopping kind of thing. But I also do a lot for women, and I think that's where I fit really comfortably. But in saying that, I never want to single out anyone. But the reason why I offered that up to wedding couples, to people, to brides, is because there's a lot of, in that pre-ceremony time, which can take, 5-6 hours of makeup, hair, preparing yourself, and often people have a lot of people around them. So the bride might have a few, 3 or 4 bridesmaids, mother and mother-in-law, auntie, grandma, and which is all really lovely. In that getting ready phase, people can get really flustered, and it can kind of detract from getting right back to basics of what you're about to do, and celebrating your love and the meaning behind that, why you're marrying this person. And so I have created a beautiful little circle ceremony. It takes 15 minutes. It actually takes me a lot longer to set it up. But it's just something really nurturing, really grounding, that brings people, after they've had hair and makeup, just before they're putting on their dresses. So everyone's looking beautiful, all done up, and they're all in their dressing gowns or robes. And we just come together. I create a beautiful mandala on the floor using stones, herbs, flowers. I use a Tibetan singing bowl. I use sprigs of rosemary, lavender spray, and a whole variety of things. And I just very gently do, I guess you could call it kind of like, sometimes it's a little bit meditative, but it's really just us sitting down as women and coming together and sharing our heartfelt goodness for the bride and what she's about to go into, and her groom. And so it's a really beautiful way to be grounded, feel supported before you walk down that aisle.
Yeah. I think that sounds wonderful. And do you offer it to all couples?
I do offer it to all
brides,
I'm really bad at promoting myself, which I think maybe we all are. So I have it there on my website, and if people ask me, I do it. But I don't say to every people who book me in, by the way, this is what I do. I leave it up to people, because for some people they love it, for other people it's not for them. And also some people don't need it too. Some people can cope really well on the day and don't need it. And actually, it's not even really about coping. It's sometimes brides want it because it's a gift to their loved ones, to their mum, to their nan, to their bridesmaids. So it's like, I've got a little treat for you, and it's a surprise, and we're all just going to sit down for a moment. And so that's really nice too. The focus on those circles is 100% self-love. It's a moment in time where we press pause on our daily lives, and we come right back to self, and we top ourselves up, and then we can move forward for the rest of the afternoon and the evening feeling good and feeling grounded.
Because it's also not necessarily just about the build up on the day, makeup, hair, but it's also the build up for the months and days beforehand, the preparation. And I think taking that moment to acknowledge as well that you have arrived. You have arrived at the moment you have been planning and thinking of for so long. Taking that pause, as you say, to feel your feet on the ground or feel your body on the earth, and supporting you as well as you then move forward. I love the symbolism of that, of pausing for a moment before you step into that threshold, because when you leave that ceremony, you're leaving as a married couple. You know, you're moving forward together in a different way.
Absolutely.
So wonderful. And I think in regard to what we've all been through in the last year or so, you know, in regard to the pandemic and the things that we've been through, I wonder if those kind of moments, those circles, those pauses are actually going to be, you know, required or requested even more, because I think that's another important thing to think about, is the people that might not be able to be there for different reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and taking a moment to acknowledge what we have all been through. You know, you can't, to a certain extent, you can't pretend it's not happened. And so those circles sound absolutely wonderful. I want to come to one.
One day we can.
One day we'll do a circle, definitely. And I love the way circles seem to appear, you know, on your Instagram. I'm always going to be really rooting your Instagram, but again, you know, there's images of ceremonies where the floral displays in a circle. There's images on beaches where you have created a circle of stones or pebbles. Even an image of a couple standing on what looks like a little rug, a circular rug. I just love that feeling of, or to me, it symbolizes, again, stepping into a circle where you can put everything else aside and focus on what you're about to do. And then at the end of the ceremony, you step out of that circle as a couple, as a married couple, you know, soaked up your vows, soaked up everything that's just been shared.
That's right.
So I love that.
I think the circle, when it's on the ground and for couples to stand in, and again, that's only if they, you know, if they want to.
Of course.
But it has two kind of purposes. And I guess one purpose is it helps to define the space. So it really helps couples and guests to go, this is a sacred space. This is a significant space where something really magical and something beautiful that we're about to, you know, that we're really honouring. And from, I guess, a meaningful perspective is it can represent the circle of life, the circle of love. It can represent the holding of togetherness. And so I offer up circles to people when I feel like they might like it. And sometimes people just say, I was speaking to a couple last night, they might be watching, I'm not too sure, and they're getting married in about 4 weeks' time. And they want to have a natural stone circle. So I'm going to go down to my local beach down here in Taroona and collect some beautiful smooth river stones and create a circle, and I'm going to take that up the East Coast with me.
Wonderful.
And then afterwards they're going to choose a stone out of the circle that I'll create for them, that they'll stand in for ceremony, and then we're going to step out of that circle and then we're going to run over to a cliff edge, and they're going to hold onto their stone each, make a little blessing, a quiet little blessing for themselves, and then they're going to throw it into the ocean. So it's just one little example of a little gentle ritual. It's not for everyone. Not everyone likes that kind of thing, which is totally fine. But it's just one example of a celebrant's role is to really understand and to tap into every couple's needs. And it's not about forcing anything upon them. It's about asking them, drawing out of them what's meaningful for them, what's comfortable for them. And really creating something that's perfect for them. It's not about what I want. It's not about anything like that. It has to be 100% for them. And this, if you think about a wedding, you know, this is a single moment in time, And if celebrants, if we don't get it right, then it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so vital that we get, it's so vital. And look, when I say perfect, nothing's ever 100% perfect. You know, there's weather and there's children and there's emotion and there's lots of things that, you know, contributes to things not going to plan. And that's just natural and normal.
Yes.
But our plan is to have something that's highly meaningful for every couple.
Yeah, I agree. And taking a little bit of a step back is choice is, for me as a celebrant, in regard to any ceremonies, it's about making sure beautiful.
I have to turn you around because the sun's setting.
Oh, please do. Yeah, so it's about choice. It's about making sure that the couples and families know all the choices that are available to them.
Yes.
You know, because what I often think is that like you're saying, after the ceremony, what I don't want to hear is a couple saying, I wish we'd done this and I wish we'd done that, because I hadn't, you know, shown them their choice. So sometimes I'll say to couples, this might feel a bit overwhelming, what is possible, but it's really important for me to make sure you know the choices you have.
Absolutely.
And you know, that again goes back to my midwifery practice. It's about informed choice. It's about making sure that people know the choices they have, and it's not about what I think is right for them. It's about, you know, sharing with them. Yeah. And then as you say, talking about or kind of focusing on things that are meaningful to them, whatever that is. That's what's important. Not filling it with things that aren't meaningful. You know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, there's a kind of evolution there, isn't there? There's often you meet a couple and share options and choices, etc. And over time, as they explore and learn a little bit about these options, and they hear about other things that people have done, they then start to suggest, actually, we would like this. You know, maybe 2 months ago we didn't want to do this, but we've explored it. And I love that kind of evolution of that realization of how much they can actually bring into their ceremony. It's just
absolutely, yeah. And everyone's so different, and at any given time I might be working with 50 or 60 couples, and there is no way I can have a handful of templates that is going to fit everyone. And I think for me, when I started my business, it was so important to me that every single couple, every single ceremony that I help to write and help to create, it starts from a blank canvas. And it's a process, and it takes time, and you want to have couples invested in that. I guess if couples want to have simply tick the box, right, we've booked the celebrant in, moving on to the right thing, and they just say, we don't care, we leave it up to you, that's great, and that works well for many people, but I'm probably just not the right person for them.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty in Australia, is that we have so many different types of civil celebrants, and everyone brings a piece of themselves or the whole of themselves to what they do. And so couples have a huge variety. There's a few celebrants I've noticed are on watching now. I think Maria and Sue, and I think Bronwyn's on there. And I think I saw Nat Weaver as well. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a really lovely group of people, large group of people in Tasmania, but Australia-wide, that are offering such different things.
Yes.
And then it's a matter of couples to go online, talk to different people, see different things, and just decide what's going to be best for them.
Yeah, definitely. So that's wonderful. So some of your community, or the global community of celebrants, is here this morning or this evening, And that brings me to, so do you connect with celebrants locally to you? Do you have a kind of any sort of like CPD groups or support groups in a way?
So we do, and I guess it depends. They're all small groups, and I'm not overly active in groups because it's not really kind of my style and what I get out of it. I like to have kind of smaller groups and one-on-one conversations. But during OPD, once a year we come together for OPD, but there's a variety of OPD, kind of that training session. We also try and catch up and have drinks or a cup of tea or something, maybe once every few months. We're always there. We're only a phone call away, an email away to say, oh my gosh, I've got this tricky situation. I'm not too sure what to do.
Great.
So that level of support is definitely there.
Excellent.
And, you know, I only facilitate one wedding a day, for example, or one ceremony a day. So when I'm booked, I've got this wonderful group of celebrants that I can, you know, just have a little look to see if they're available and to be able to recommend people.
Wonderful. That's so good. It sounds a lot more about, you know, collaboration.
Definitely.
You know, it's not about, you know, there's that saying, collaboration over competition or whatever. You know,
absolutely.
And it's about working together for the couples and families, really. That's what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some celebrants are full-time, some celebrants are part-time, some celebrants only want to do one wedding every few months, and some celebrants want to be doing it every day. And so, you know, it's just really lovely to have that mixture.
Good.
Yeah.
And we were talked a little bit earlier about kind of pausing, you know, before the ceremony, and again on one of you, which I think is so important, however that is done, to just take that pause before stepping forward. But we also talked about in one of your posts, you talked about pausing, having that opportunity to pause during the ceremony if need be. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that, you know, where that idea or thought or feeling even comes from? Because sometimes these things can be quite instinctive and organic, this need to pause, you know, it can just be a feeling that needs to,
So I guess how I work is it's a very instinctual, intuitive thing to realize that couples are feeling that heightened level of emotion and perhaps are feeling overwhelmed. And I just ask for a pause. I just say, just have a pause, maybe pop your hand on your heart, just take a deep breath, turn around, have a look at the view. Just take a moment to go, we're here, we're doing this. Because if you think, if couples have an entrance, for example, you know, someone enters and then they're there and then straight into it. And sometimes we just need to have a pause to feel that appreciation for where we are. In Tasmania, many people are married outside. We have got incredible oceans, cliffs, sky, rainforests, alpine mountaintops, parks, beaches. We have such a huge variety, and where people choose to be married is so important. For me, their story, their sentiments, the vows that they're going to be exchanged, the words that are going to be exchanged between the celebrant and the couple, for me, it's etched there forever. And this is a significant place that these couples can come back to. And
I love that.
I think it's really special to really acknowledge that. And I guess if you're religiously focused, then a particular church might hold very strong meaning and sentimental value to you. And perhaps there's been generations of people in your family who have had their funeral there or baptism there or religious wedding there. And maybe we can carry some of those kind of sentiments without being attached to a particular religious denomination, and carry that kind of sentiment to this natural landscape that we're in.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
I'm very connected to First Nation people of Tasmania. And, you know, perhaps thousands of years ago, this area was significant and ritual was held there with First Nation people. So it's part of that story.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's a lovely way of thinking about it, as in it's part of a wider story, the nation's story, but also part of the couples and family story. So, you know, in Scotland, it's the same. Couples can get married up top of a mountain. They can get married on a beach, in a bookshop, you know, anywhere, with obviously with the landowner's permission. And many couples choose to be outdoors and to get married in places that has meaning to them. Maybe it was an area that the family went to every year for holidays. Maybe it was the area where the decision to marry was made, or the proposal, or there's often wonderful stories. There's a couple I'm working with just now who are getting married in the place that they spent a lot of one of them spent a lot of family holidays growing up, and the proposal took place there. And then recently they've been looking at family history, and they've discovered that great grandparents were married in the same place. So there's all this story evolving now, and which is just wonderful, you know. It's so lovely.
It carries that extra layer of meaning for people.
It does. And being able to support people to explore all of these layers and nuances about where they've chosen, I think is really wonderful. It really opens up so much for them too. So thinking about pausing and self-care, what do you do because you're so busy? How, you know, and there's a lot of emotional labor tied up in this kind of work. You know, you receive a lot too, but you know, you're giving a lot. So what do you do to kind of fill your cup and refresh yourself?
Well, it's a constant I guess desire to try and fill the cup. And it's a daily reminding ourselves, isn't it? You know, I'm not perfect at it at all. In fact, I have days where I just want to snuggle up on the couch and not move. And I guess because I'm a civil celebrant and I do marriages, but I also do a lot of farewells, funerals, and I also work in palliative care situations where I go into palliative care and sit with someone who's at the end of their life. And I might audio recall our conversations, chat with families and so forth. And that is all, it's so giving. You're giving 100% of yourself, which I love. But I guess topping myself up, being kind to myself if I feel really teary after those conversations, then to be able to cry and that to be okay, to be able to be in nature and walk, you know, go for a bushwalk. And in Tassie, we're really lucky because we can just walk out our front door and there's a local bushwalk, a local walking track, and to just walk through all the plants and let them all brush against you and be surrounded by greenery is so beautiful, isn't it? Family time, it's a constant. I mean, I have 2 teenage boys and a beautiful husband, and to find time for the 4 of us to be together just gets harder and harder and harder. Booking ahead, because I work 7 days a week, I book in when I'm going to have a day off. So then I leave my phone at home and I don't open my computer. It's just finding things. I think that's topping yourself up is such an individualistic thing. Some people like to tend to a garden. Some people like to go for a surf. Some people like to go swimming in freezing water. So it's just really finding what it is that makes you feel good about you, and doing it, creating the opportunity for you to do it as much as you can, you know.
Yeah. And that's so, I think all the great, I totally agree with that. And I think the idea of planning ahead as well, like blocking out dates in your diary, so that if you know you're going to be expending a lot of energy, you know, for a few days busy, just making sure you've got some time off factored in. You know, we're really good at just keeping going and keeping going, and yeah, definitely. So yeah, outdoors, swimming, yoga. That's why I teach yoga on the beach a couple of mornings a week, which I absolutely love. That's so rewarding, just being out in the elements. Yeah, so definitely having your nourishment is really important. Yeah. So, and you know, communicating like this as well.
Isn't this just lovely? It's getting darker and darker here.
It got dark so quickly. It just got dark so quickly.
As soon as Tassie's very much like that. It probably takes maybe a few minutes for the sun to set and then it's gone. And I guess because we're on the east coast.
Wow.
So yeah.
So, and it's not quite, it's probably just coming up for 6 o'clock, is it? 6 p.m. So it's quite dark.
So we're coming into our winter solstice.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
And Tasmania's, 40 degrees. I think it's approximately 40 degrees. Hi. I think Tasmania's about 40 degrees south. So there's not a lot really in between us and Antarctica. Apart from the Great Southern Ocean.
Incredible to think that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. But as I was saying, some of the nourishment we need or we want is from communicating, and I know this. It's social media, love it or hate it. Some people have a kind of love-hate relationship with it. But for me, it has brought a lot of connection, and I and it's connected me to you, which is amazing. And I really, wanted to just say thank you as we can draw this conversation to an end. For the moment, we may well get back together and have another live chat in the future. But I just wanted to say thanks so much for taking time out to come and chat to me.
Andrea.
It's just beautiful to connect with you, through our Instagram and now on IGTV, and let's keep in touch. And thanks to everyone who's joined as well. It's wonderful to see all these names popping up.
It's really nice.
So have a restful evening. I am going to go swimming.
Enjoy swimming in that Scottish freezing water. I think that's great.
It resets me, Merren. It's like it recalibrates me, definitely.
Yeah.
So have a wonderful evening, and we'll be in touch. Lots of love.
Thanks.
Lots of love. Bye, everyone. Bye.